You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Trump is a little bit upset at Never Trump Republicans. This Lincoln group who put out this devastating ad playing on the well-known Ronald Reagan ad, Morning in America. Many credit with putting him over the goal line. They have a different morning in America. Watch this.
There's morning in America. Today, more than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment, and with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
Paid for by the Lincoln Project, which is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, Scott, that ad ran in one market. Trump lost his mind, was tweeting, cussing them out, dogging them. Sounds like they hit their mark.
A hit dog will holler, as my grandmother used to say, and the dog is Trump and he's hollering. But the best line in that, and it's undeniable, that America, what did the ad say? We're weaker, we're poorer, and sicker because Donald Trump ignored this deadly disease for 70 days or more. This is undeniable. And you see that the people in line with masks on were black, white, yellow, and brown. And so Donald Trump wants to get the economy going and wants to tout how many tests we have. But he had a hand in, it feels like he had a hand in some of these deaths. It's not fair to give him, to blame him for all of it. The disease is deadly. But how many lives would be saved? How much safer would we be had he read the reports in the White House in January, in December? The testing and that chart that Kaylee put up, that's completely misleading. That's what you've done after the fact. Once the disease has dominated American lives and taken American lives and more than in the Vietnam, and that we have 1.2 million infections because we didn't act swiftly, that we ignored it for 70 days. You've got to look at the full story in evaluating this White House, and they get an F, not for their response, but they get an F for not responding for 70 days.
Every single night. We've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patel Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie British Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, in case you forgot, here's a look at what Donald Trump has been doing for the past 2 months.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
Our numbers are lower than just about anybody.
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all.
People coming in from China, where this all started, it could have been stopped right where it came from, China. It came from China. It got out of control.
If you think about Governor Cuomo, we're building him 4 hospitals. He's supposed to be buying his own ventilators. We're going to help.
People like Governor Inslee, he should be doing more. He shouldn't be relying on the federal government. Governor Inslee, that's the state of Washington.
Don't call the woman in Michigan. All she does is she has no idea what's going on, and all she does is say, oh, it's the federal government's fault, and we've taken such great care of Michigan. We inherited, this administration inherited a broken system.
The original tests, the ones we inherited, Jim, as an example, they were broken, they were obsolete.
And you remember we inherited a broken system. We inherited a broken system. WHO, that's the World Health Organization, they missed the call. World Health got it wrong. I mean, they got it very wrong. In many ways, they were wrong. I'm not happy with the World Health Organization. The reality is that the WHO failed to adequately obtain, vet, and share information in a timely and transparent fashion. It would have been so easy to be truthful.
The coronavirus, you know that, right? Coronavirus. And this is their new hoax.
And the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0.
Well, we now know those deaths are a lot higher. Press Secretary, of course, did the usual BS from the White House podium. Listen to this.
There were supposed to be 2.2 million deaths, and we're at a point where we're far lower than that, and it's thanks to the great work of the task force and to the leadership of President Trump.
Well, whose idea was it initially to wind it down?
Again, I'm not going further. The president has answered this 4 times today. John?
I just have a question.
There were supposed to be 2.2.
Going to wind down the coronavirus task force. Then, of course, got lots of criticism. And Donald Trump say, "Oh no, I didn't realize the panel was the task force was so popular. So we're going to keep it going." And then, of course, when McEnany was hit over her previous comments with regards to what she said about coronavirus, then what they usually do in this White House, they want to pivot to the media. Watch this.
Kayleigh, in a previous life, before you were press secretary, you worked for the campaign, and you made a comment, I believe, on Fox, in which you said President Trump will not allow the coronavirus to come to this country. Given what has happened since then, obviously, would you like to take that back?
Well, first, let me note, I was asked a question on Fox Business about...
So, again, this dancing that they're doing with these people, the dancing that they do is quite interesting, okay? How they play these games with words, how they play the world choice. Then, of course, McEnany comes back to her favorite one, how we're leading and testing.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to direct your attention to a very encouraging graph regarding test results. It'll be over my shoulder and hopefully on the screen for those of you watching on television. As this chart shows, the United States has to date completed 7.5 million coronavirus tests. It's an extraordinary number. And as you can see, the United States leads the world in testing. This graph is no accident. In fact, this graph is a testament to American innovation, including the work of the Trump administration. For example, the FDA has issued over 70 emergency use authorizations to expand testing capacity. To accelerate the development of therapeutics and vaccines, there are nearly 80 clinical trials ongoing.
Oh, 7 million tests, Lauren. And then later she talked about, no, it's silly that we should talk about testing everybody.
Right.
The death total increased 3,000 overnight. Folks,
right.
we're gonna, by Monday, we're gonna exceed 80,000 people dead. But I love how all of a sudden they're trying to latch onto the initial model of it could be upwards of 2.2 million. Well, you know, it was 2.2 million, and we've only lost 70,000, so we've done a great job.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, my prediction for this entire thing is that in 181 days, Joe Biden will be elected president. This is one of the worst disasters in American history. I mean, I don't need to say it again, but I guess I should just say it because we're in a Trump segment. This president is deeply incompetent. He is obviously very dangerous. This is the guy that 2 weeks ago told everybody to inject Lysol, into themselves. And his level of incompetence is so dangerous and so deadly, it was bound to catch up to us, and it has caught up to us. Because he could not read an intel report and wanted to talk about vaping, there are 74,000 Americans who are dead that should not be. He could have prepared for this. He didn't. As we know, he closed the office that deals with pandemics that Barack Obama, of course, funded and touted and obviously had operational because he's stupid. And now he's going to ramp things down because he thinks he can PR his way out of this, which you can't because there are 74,000 people who are dead and counting. So now what he's going to try to do is try to pretend this isn't happening and get back into some sort of campaign mode, because that's how stupid he is. That's how morally bankrupt he is.
Joseph, Joseph, talk about moving the goalposts. The people at The Daily Show, they really did it best. Watch this.
Do it. You would have had 1 million people, 1.5 million people, maybe 2 million people dead. But we're going towards 50 or 60,000 people. It looks like we'll be at about a 60,000 mark. 60. Maybe 65,000. 65,000 people. 70,000. 75, 80 or 90,000 people. 100,000. And I think we're going to beat that. If we could hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000, so we have between 100 and 200,000, we all together have done a very good job.
Wow, Joseph. Great job.
I mean, look, I come from the position that two things can be true at the same time. That we can talk about the fact that they were to call it missed opportunities is probably an embarrassment to missed opportunities for us to try to take steps to quell this global pandemic, this global disaster. Like I said, all the talking points are out there that, if the World Health Organization hadn't done this, or, yes, the World Health Organization went from telling us that we could not have person-to-person transmission to us in witnessing probably the worst pandemic in close to 100 years. So, I think overall, I think we're having the right conversation, perhaps the wrong way. We could talk about the fact that maybe the president didn't tell people to inject Lysol, but he should have some level of awareness that as the leader of the free world, in a world where children will, swallow Tide Pods.
Again, looks like
even if there might be some reality. So, I think ultimately, again, we just need to talk about how do we keep people safe. We are crushing the curve a little bit here in New York, but we see spikes in places like New Orleans. We see spikes in places like, places like Washington, D.C. So those are the type of issues that I think we should be talking about right now moving forward.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And an ad posted on social media reminds us who we're dealing with in the Oval Office right now.
It's midnight in Washington. The lights are finally going out in the Capitol after a long day in the impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country. You just can't.
Bing, bing, bong, bong.
He will not change, and you know it. History will not be kind to Donald Trump. I think we all know that, not because it will be written by never-Trumpers, but because whenever we have departed from the values of our nation, we have come to regret it, and that regret is written all over the pages of our history. If you find that the House has proved its case and still vote to acquit, your name will be tied to his with a cord of steel and for all of history. He has betrayed our national security. He has compromised our elections, and he will do so again. You will not change him. You cannot constrain him. Truth matters little to him. What's right matters even less, and decency matters not at all. We have proven Donald Trump guilty. Now do impartial justice and convict him.
While we air that, well, Donald Trump is actually suing local TV stations for airing ads such as that because he doesn't want the people to actually see and know what he's actually done. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Vice President Joe Biden certainly has a message for Donald Trump. You can't fix the economy without fixing the public health crisis.
Early January, Donald Trump is first warned of the virus. He ignores it.
We have it totally under control. It's going to be just fine.
Defends the Chinese government instead. January 30th, Trump's own cabinet secretary warns of a pandemic, raising concerns that the Chinese government isn't being transparent. Trump calls him an alarmist.
We think we have it very well under control. We're working very closely with China and other countries, and we think it's going to have a very good ending for us.
The next day, the Dow plummets 600 points. Desperate to protect the stock market from sliding further, Trump continues to deny the threat and praise the Chinese government.
We're doing great in our country. China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard, and I think it's going to all work out fine. Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away.
But global cases more than double.
spreading to over 24 countries. February 25th, one of the CDC's top experts, Nancy Messonnier, speaks out, warning it could soon become a full-scale pandemic.
Disruption to everyday life may be severe, and I told my children that while I didn't think that they were at risk right now, we as a family need to be preparing for significant disruption of our lives.
Mr. Trump was, quote, furious as he watched the stock market crash after her comments. Trump didn't want to upset the markets. So for the last 5 days of February, the Trump administration took to the airwaves to deny the truth.
We have contained this, I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight.
Thanks to the president and this team's aggressive containment efforts, this disease, as Dr. Schuchat said, is contained.
February 27th, the market sees through the denials. The Dow continues to plunge, but Trump keeps up the false message.
It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. I think we're going to get through it very well.
April turns into May. The virus doesn't disappear. There is no miracle. The cases mount. The death toll grows. More than 33 million Americans lose their jobs to the pandemic. Unemployment reaches Great Depression-era levels. Donald Trump doesn't understand. We have an economic crisis because we have a public health crisis. And we have a public health crisis because he refused to act. Donald Trump didn't build a great economy. His failure to lead destroyed one.
Wow, Amisha, bottom line is this here. You look at Trump's poll numbers, that ad directly correlates with what we're seeing in those numbers. This White House cannot act as if everything is all rosy. And so he better pay attention, which is why Jared Kushner's trying to bring in his own person. He's thinking about bringing Corey Lewandowski back. They realize there is a problem, and you can't look at anybody else but the mirror.
Absolutely. That ad was pure hot fire. It's going to be very difficult for President Trump to be able to win back the states that he consistently said over and over again he was responsible for building their economies. Those same states are the ones that have lost the most jobs during this COVID-19 pandemic. And no, people don't blame President Trump for the pandemic. They do blame him for his response. They blame him for not being ready. They blame him for ignoring all of the advice from not only medical professionals, but also from other nation state leaders who decided to act long before President Trump did. So the response here is the problem. And, you know, we're bleeding hundreds of thousands of jobs across states every single day that are not going to come back. And we don't have a president who has his head on straight, much less an understanding of how to bring those jobs back. To argue that he was a job creator was a falsity from jump. We know that the majority of new jobs came from the Investment and Recovery Act that President Obama pushed through. Beyond that, we're watching a president right now who refuses to not only take any type of responsibility for the disasters that he's created, but he continues to try to push the media to chase other things. We've seen him try it with his friends and people arguing that somebody's going to get exonerated here, there, and everywhere. We've seen him and his administration try to, push several tales about Biden and Biden's son. At this point, we are at a crisis level. And what the American people want is to make sure that they have an economy that works for them, that they're able to pay their rent next month and the months after, that their kids are going to be safe. And they really want to know how do we get out of this depression era that we happen to be in right now? And I don't think anyone, blue or red state, actually trusts that this president is going to be someone who devises the plan to do it.
That particular ad, Malik, if you're a Republican, trust me, they have concerns. Democrats pick up 4 seats in the Senate. They take control of the United States Senate. They are seeing Trump is a drag on even their races. Even though we're talking about May, that's not the position you want to be in as we're heading into the summer, the fall. There's uncertainty when it comes to the economy, but also when it comes to public health.
What we've seen over the past, just number of just administrations is that presidents typically, as they're approaching re-election, they're not helpful down ballot. We saw that with Barack Obama, and the same thing that happened with George W. Bush. But the ad was a little long. I don't know if it were meant for So maybe it's meant for Facebook or something.
Yes,
or
no, it's digital. First of all, it's not a 60-second ad. It was a 2-minute plus ad. It's meant
Right.
for digital. But it may be long. But the bottom line is, it was a whole lot you got to put in there in order to get folks' attention. That also establishes the timeline. What in the hell Trump didn't do?
Well, sure, but we've talked about this on the show before. The experts that you all are talking about, these experts have actually responded to it. Some of the things that they are alleging in the ad, I mean, we can go back and forth, kind of knocking each one of them down from what the federal government was doing at the time, what Trump was saying at the time, what happened with the doctor at the immunization director or whatever. You know, there are plenty of things we can go back and just say, okay, well, those things actually weren't true. But as far as an ad is concerned, if you don't like Donald Trump or you're on the fence, this is something that could possibly sway you, but it's also something that we've just been debating publicly for a while now. Donald Trump, I think they've done a good thing as far as stopping the number of hearings and the format of the press conferences. I think they actually did a good thing with that, because the communication was part of the problem, and that PR campaign that Donald Trump was on was something that ultimately didn't serve him well. So they seem to be correcting themselves. But as I've said on this show many times before, there's Donald Trump and then there's the federal government. Sure, we can blame Secretary Azar for what happened with HHS. We can blame the director of the CDC for what happened at the CDC. And that involves testing. That involves what we're talking about with contract tracing. That involves a whole host of things, even from equipment, the PPE equipment. All of that type of stuff we can actually talk about. And yes, Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, he's the boss. He's the ultimate one who's responsible for these things. But, it seems as if, at least, especially if we're talking about the testing, that really, to me, and I've kind of looked at it, and I've decided to say, well, this kind of, to me, seems like more of a brownie. Mike Brown from George Bush's administration during the Katrina. I think he was the head of FEMA at that time, where it was like a good job brownie that George Bush said to him. It seems as if I still haven't been able to piece it together, but something happened, and it wasn't President Trump and what President Trump was out there saying. Something happened at the CDC, HHS, as far as these tests are concerned. I still haven't been able to figure that part out. Why were we so late as far as the testing? But that is an issue. And, there have been concerns. There have been talks about whether Donald Trump was going to keep Secretary Azar and replace him with Dr. Birx, or, there have been a lot of discussions about that, but Donald Trump says he's fine. But there definitely, as I've said, and I've owned up to, sure, there have been things that the administration just hasn't done well, but I'm not one of those who's going to get on whether it's this administration or another administration, and attack the federal government. And I think a lot of what we've been doing is just attacking the federal government.
No. What we've been doing is citing Kelly, what we're doing is citing exactly what is happening. The bottom line is, Melik, that's cute for you to try to divorce federal government from Trump. The reason, Kelly, the phrase "the buck stops here," remember, Kelly, remember, in the Republican National Convention that was in Cleveland, who stood up there and said, "Only I can fix this"? See, when you try to say, "I'm the man, I got this," but then when hell comes, that ain't me. Y'all, gone. That's CDC. That's them. Then he's constantly lying by saying, "Oh, we were left with no plan." The Obama people left a 69-page plan. The Obama people, it was their test. Fauci was asked that today. He said, "No, that's not true." See, and so here's what you can't do, Kelly. You can try to sit here and separate everybody to shield Trump. The buck stops at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Kelly.
My issue with Malik's argument, be that as it may, is the fact that, again, we cannot bifurcate Trump from the administration because it is Trump's administration. You want to blame the CDC? Okay, fine. Well, you appointed the person to be the head of the CDC, sir. You want to blame the health professionals or the Surgeon General or whatever. You appointed the Surgeon General. These are all people who report to you, and you hired them. So if they're not doing their job, that's on you. If the administration isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, that's on you too. And it's very frustrating to me that we keep going back to this blame shifting and the scapegoating and, just trying to have Trump attenuate himself from everything. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because like you said, when he got up at RNC, he said, only I can fix this. Every time he's on a podium, he's like, I got this. Even when he's berating female journalists at the podium when they're trying to, use his words and try to get explanations out of what he's saying, he wants to be like, oh, that wasn't me. He's a liar. But not only is he a liar, he's a one-trick pony. And that's the real issue here. He, like any other one-trick pony, you have one trick. And his was entertainment and buffering and making sure that people were satisfied by way of a phrase or an event or, something flashy. Well, right now we're in the middle of a global pandemic. There's nothing flashy about over 80,000 people dead under your watch. There's nothing flashy at over 1 million people affected by something that you could have prevented back in January. There's nothing flashy about the fact that you really don't know anything, Mr. President. And yet here you are in a position when you're supposed to know and you don't, but you want to, act like you do and not garner the expertise of Dr. Fauci and others, and instead try to belittle them and berate them and undermine their authority and their expertise on something that they've been doing for over 30 years. Like with any president, you've only been in this for 4. Whether you're a bad president or not, you're supposed to defer to the experts. It's clear that he's not an expert, but narcissism says that he is. His mind says that he is. So he's going to keep doing this one-trick pony episode. And frankly, it's not going to work. It hasn't worked. And we're seeing beyond the veil of his facade. And that's really what's ticking him off. That's really what's ticking these Republicans off, because they thought that for 4 years, they would be able to have a one-trick pony in the office so they can get whatever they want undone. They weren't anticipating a global pandemic. Nobody was. But now they're stuck.
Well,
but at the end of the day, to your initial point, the administration is Trump's. You wanted this job, you got this job, do your job.
Real simple. The buck stops with you. Every single night. We've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, Executive Director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division Strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and Wellness Specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, President of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with the Root. The Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do.
We want to terminate health care under Obamacare because it's bad.
The House has already voted some 30 times to repeal or defund this law.
I and many of my colleagues did as we promised and voted to repeal.
We will and must repeal and replace Obamacare.
The Centers for Disease Control estimate predicts the daily coronavirus death toll in the United States might hit 3,000 by early June.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks at The Daily Show, they have put together some amazing videos. And so this is the video that they took comments that you hear on Fox News where they're always trashing Joe Biden or Barack Obama. And then they chose to apply it to Donald Trump. This, folks, is utterly delicious.
He doesn't have command of the subject matter.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute.
He can't string a coherent sentence together.
More than ever before, we've held our rate, the numbers, everything we've done.
Stumbles all over his sentences, starts rattling off.
They can do as they want. They can do what they have to do. They know what they have to do.
We've already seen how his mental faculties are declining.
But you know, they had a debate it was really a rough time in our country.
He's just not articulate enough to be the leader of the free world.
We want to win the war with as few, if you look at it, just deaths as possible.
Day after day, it's embarrassing to watch him.
We have, I call it the super duper missile.
He lies with ease.
Anybody that wants a test can get a test.
Some of his appearances lately have been just downright disturbing.
I happen to be taking it.
hydroxychloroquine?
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine.
This type of agitated behavior is part of an increasing, disturbing pattern.
Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to get you. My question to you get you. You know you're a fake. Just a loudmouth. Maybe that's a question you should ask China.
And I feel bad for him. He's where a lot of us will be in late middle age, and it's sad.
A what? Oh, fuck. Uh-oh.
You know, he's old, he's creepy.
The professionals did the models. I was never involved in a model. But at least this kind of a model.
Just roll the tape, the creepy things that he's doing to people on camera.
We've seen how creepy he is with women.
I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women.
She even noted his handsy history of touching people.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
He's very creepy. Can't make this up.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
That is a great video, Erica.
Yeah, and kudos to the 53% and voter suppression for getting in someone who is all of those things in that montage video. I think that all of the things that we hear from out of right-wing media outlets, Fox News, is really just projection, right? They have a very specific audience that they cater to. It is an audience that despises and detests Black and brown people, especially Black and brown people that are in any position of leadership that do execute and show competence. And so I think that using their very own words against them is something that is definitely powerful and something that needs to be continually put into the forefront of people's mind as media continues to cover Trump and all of his ramblings ad nauseum, unfortunately.
Oh, go right ahead, Reese.
Yeah, actually, though, I have to shout out Sarah Cooper because I think that she does a genius job practically every day spoofing Trump with lip syncing or wordsmith, whatever, however you want to call it, his words. But it's incredibly disturbing that Trump just has completely lost it. And just the fact, going back to the earlier video that you showed, that he says he's taking hydrochloroquine. And he says, what do you have to lose? As if this isn't a potentially deadly cure. If you don't have a disease that it's trying to cure, it's literally insane. And I think that we are just completely at his mercy when a person who has abdicated all of his responsibility to have a competent response to this. And unfortunately, the cruelty part of him is what's driving our policy. And it has very real consequences. As you said, Roland, we're over 90,000 deaths right now. The curve was supposed to be at 100,000 in August, and we're in May, and there is nothing that's being done to stop this from getting even worse. And that's what's really at stake here.
Every single night. We've got some of the top Black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear Black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Harding, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Springs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, Executive Director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division Strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and Wellness Specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, President of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriot with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julian Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Joe Biden not playing around when it comes to letting people know exactly how trifling Donald Trump has been when it comes to coronavirus. Check out this ad that Joe's campaign dropped this weekend.
He failed to act. So now Trump and his allies are launching negative attacks against Joe Biden to hide the truth. Here are the facts. Joe Biden warned the nation in January that Trump had left us unprepared for a pandemic. Then, Biden told Trump he should insist on having American health experts on the ground in China.
I would be on the phone with China and making it clear, we are going to need to be in your country. You have to be open. You have to be clear. We have to know what's going on.
But Trump rolled over for the Chinese. He took their word for it.
The president tweeted, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency.
China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard, and I think it's going to all work out fine.
Trump praised the Chinese 15 times in January and February as the coronavirus spread across the world.
It's a tough situation. I think they're doing a very good job.
Are you concerned about its potential impact on the global economy?
I think that China will do a very good job.
Trump never got a CDC team on the ground in China. And the travel ban he brags about? Trump let in 40,000 travelers from China into America after he signed it. Not exactly airtight. Look around. 22 million Americans are out of work, and we have more officially reported cases and deaths than any other country. Donald Trump left this country unprepared and unprotected for the worst public health and economic crisis in our lifetime. And now we're paying the price. All the negative ads in the world can't change the truth.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Donald Trump, in his attempt to change the news cycle, which I think that's what he did, he announces that, he's taking this hydrochloroquine, this drug, this drug that he's been touting somehow could be the miracle drug. This is what he said today in his roundtable.
But I get a lot of tremendously positive news on the hydroxy, and I say, hey, you know the expression I've used, John? What do you have to lose? Okay, what do you have to lose? So I have been taking it for about a week and a half.
Every day?
At some point, every day. I take a pill every day. At some point, I'll stop. what I'd like to do is I'd like to have the cure and or the vaccine, and that'll happen, I think, very soon.
And you've had no symptoms, sir?
Zero symptoms. No, I haven't had any symptoms. No, I test every couple of days. They want to test me, for obvious reasons. I mean, I am the president, so they want to test me. I don't want to be tested, but they want to test me. So every couple of days I get tested, and I've shown always negative, right? Negative. Is that the term you use for this, right? Negative. Totally negative. No symptoms, no nothing. But no, I take it because I think I hear very good things. Again, you have to go to frontline workers. Many frontline workers take it, and they seem to be doing very well.
First of all, let me just cut to the chase why what you just heard is bullshit. Okay? No one in their right mind is going to take a drug, a dangerous drug that has significant side effects if you're not showing any symptoms. Now, here's what we know. We know that his valet has tested positive for coronavirus. We know that Katie Miller, Pence's press secretary, has tested positive for coronavirus. She's married to Stephen Miller, his top, one of his top domestic policy aides. If y'all actually trying to get me to believe that, he's taking it, no. This is Donald Trump trying to move the conversation. Here's a video of Dr. Rob Davidson, who posted this video on Twitter soon after this announcement. Listen.
Hey, it's Dr. Rob here. Just heard that President Trump announced today that he has been taking hydroxychloroquine to prevent COVID-19. And if everything else we know about President Trump hasn't proven to you that he does not understand medicine or healthcare, and certainly doesn't have your best interests at heart, this statement and the fact that he's taking this drug should be everything you need to know. The FDA recently issued a warning that this should not be used outside of hospital settings because of the risk of death. We know that patients with lupus depend on hydroxychloroquine, and when President Trump was touting it in March, that they ran into shortages. Now, if someone on lupus who takes it all the time runs out of this drug, they can suffer from kidney failure and life-threatening blood clots. And so President Trump is not only putting those people at risk by touting this drug again, announcing that he's taking this drug against the advice of doctors, against his own White House doctor advice. This hurts those patients and potentially hurts other people who will start taking the drug to try to prevent it, or when they have mild symptoms that could be from COVID-19. Recently, we know there's evidence popping up that there are increased deaths with hydroxychloroquine. And we know that there is no evidence that this drug works, none. This study, quote, study out of France was completely flawed. Any data that has existed has been debunked. We want it to work. We want something that works, but we know that hydroxychloroquine isn't it, at least not yet. And the president is being reckless in his announcing that he's taking it, and in taking it in the first place. We in the healthcare field need to come out with one voice against the use of this drug, against the advice of this president, knowing that he is going to put more people in harm's way. Be safe out there. Please stay home. Please observe social distancing and wear masks when you're in public. And above all, listen to healthcare experts, not the president.
Eugene, he's lying. Eugene, you cannot convince me that the FDA issued that warning and his doctors would allow him to take this drug. He's lying. What he is doing is trying to get the folks off the focus, the fact that 90,000 people have died, and we may very well hit 100. CDC is saying we're going to hit 100,000 by June 1st. We may hit 100,000 by Friday.
Yes. The thing is this, right? He's either lying about one or two things. He's either lying about taking the drug, or he's lying about either contracting COVID-19 or one of the other reasons that this drug is administered and applied. But the fact does remain that no credible, credited, licensed health professional will just let him willy-nilly take this drug like he's taking a daily multivitamin. This drug is not some kind of preventative panacea against coronavirus. It's a very dangerous drug. It's a drug that has very dangerous side effects. And, for somebody to be the president of the United States, you would want to think, especially of his age and the risk categories that he falls well within, that you want to think that he would want to avoid any kind of risk that could put his life at risk and our country at risk.
Avis, you really think a doctor, a White House doctor, is going to let a 73-year-old man who's sitting in the office of President of the United States take a drug that they have said do not administer unless you're in a hospital? We know he's playing people. He's playing them, and he knows it, because here's what we also know. When he went to the doctor in December, they have not been honest about his health reports. We know that. They have not been honest about his medical records. And so, okay, you want us to believe that? Bring the White House physician, have them stand in front of the media and answer questions for 2 hours with regards to this process. How long is he taking it? How often is he taking it? What's the dosage? All of that. I think Donald Trump is lying again.
Absolutely. That, or where the heck is the war on drugs when we really need it? Because this is supposed to only be available via prescription. And so if he has not gotten a prescription, how did he get the drug, right? He would have only gotten it illegally, which means that he's a drug user and needs to be in jail, number one. Number two, I think that but I do believe that it's a lie, number two. And I think it's a lie because this is his constant pattern of deflecting. However, I think he's deflecting not just from the apparent numbers that we just saw, over 1.5 million people infected that we know of, given the paltry amount of testing that we have in this country. Over 90,000 people dead that we know of, because we only can count those people who were tested and positively as having died from that disease, right? I think he's also looking to deflect from the fact that we just had his whistleblower testify, his latest whistleblower, he's had so many, his latest whistleblower testified in front of Congress last week and then just last night on 60 Minutes. And one of the things that this whistleblower blew his whistle about was the dangerous nature of this specific drug and the fact that this administration was spending so much money to stockpile it when there was no evidence that it had any sort of relationship to actually being able to cure or help this disease at all. In fact, he was arguing that basically this administration's main priority was to put money into the pockets of their corporate friends. And this was just one example of it. And so what he's doing is he's trying to, once again, make the media say, look at me, and cover my ridiculous clown show over here, while the real news that you need to be covering and blowing the alarm on somehow it gets swept under the rug once again.
Patrice, the phrase "he's lying" is trending on Twitter right now. One of the top tweets trending because he is lying. And not only that, everything Ava said, let's also remember he fired the Inspector General in the State Department on Friday, late Friday night, who was investigating Mike Pompeo's use of aids to wash dishes, walk his dog, get his dry cleaning, which you're not supposed to do. That's what's going on here. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just reiterate what Ava said about how this is just a distraction, and a lot of media is falling for it right now. The main business model for media, whether it's television or especially digital media, is to get eyeballs in order to, get ad clicks and whatnot. And so I've heard people say, why are we still covering these particular, areas of misinformation? Why are we giving him a platform? And that is something I entirely agree with. I think, between the fact that we don't have the coronavirus task force press briefings anymore, and that we have so much misinformation, it's oversaturated at this point and has been for a very long time. I think we really need to hold the media accountable in terms of the opportunities and platforms we give this man to disseminate this misinformation.
But here's why you have to cover it, because the problem is this here, okay? When the President of the United States speaks, people are going to cover it. And the reality is there are going to be people. We saw what happened before. When he touted this drug, the people who have lupus, who are impacted by this drug were freaking out because they were saying, we're running out of supply. What's going to now happen, he throws this out here, this is going to happen again. When he sounded like a fool, it was disinfected, and there were people who were literally calling and ingesting disinfectant because this nutcase said it. And so Donald Trump is actually he is a danger to the public when he speaks. Mm-hmm. And so we have to say, don't listen to the idiot in chief because he's lying. That's why I played the video of that doctor who was saying, do not listen to the president because he's lying.
Right. And I do think that, just like the doctor said, that medical professionals, they need to also be given the platforms to disseminate their information because, Trump is getting a lot of it. He gets clicks. Media companies are profitable because he gets a lot of traffic. And I do think, the medical professionals also need to receive this amount of attention.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we've had more than 80 experts on this show for those very issues.
Nearly 10,000 more Americans will die. 90,000 deaths and growing. Millions more will file for unemployment. Small businesses are dying. We're not testing enough. It's still spreading. Here's what else is coming this week. He will lie to you over and over. He will tweet instead of lead. He will blame others for his failures. Welcome to this week and the next week and the next and the next until you do something about it. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
All these black folks are dying due to coronavirus. Churches are incubators. And then Donald Trump literally went to the podium today and said this nonsense.
I'm identifying houses of worship, churches, synagogue, and mosques as essential places that provide essential services. Some governors have deemed liquor stores and abortion clinics as essential, but have left out churches and other houses of worship. It's not right. So I'm correcting this injustice and calling houses of worship essential. I call upon governors to allow our churches and places of worship to open right now. If there's any question, they're going to have to call me, but they're not going to be successful in that call. These are places that hold our society together and keep our people united. The people are demanding to go to church and synagogue, go to their mosque. Many millions of Americans embrace worship as an essential part of life. The ministers, pastors, rabbis, imams, and other faith leaders will make sure that their congregations are safe as they gather and pray. I know them well. They love their congregations. They love their people. They don't want anything bad to happen to them or to anybody else. The governors need to do the right thing and allow these very important, essential places of faith to open right now for this weekend. If they don't do it, I will overrule. Trump actually said that if they don't do it, he's going to overrule the governors. He ain't got the power to do so. More than a week ago, Pastor Reginald Sharp out of Fellowship in Chicago dropped this video that got lots of attention.
Going back to worship around Chicago, I'm told, around the nation. Fellowship will not be one of those. You can save your call. You don't have to call up to the church and wonder what us doing, what we going to do. We're not coming back to church until the Lord, the righteous judge, wakes me up out of my sleep and says it's time to come back to the building. See, the church is still open. The building is closed. So while we're in this season, the church is still open. We're still worshiping. We're still doing ministry every week. And I thank God for it. But we will not return unto this building until the Lord himself wakes me up out of my sleep, slaps me 3 times, pours water from heaven on my face, and warms my feet with the fire fire of the Holy Ghost, and I have no choice but to jump out of my bed and say, yes, God. Until that moment happens, you don't have to call us. You don't have to email me. You don't have to DM me. We ain't coming back up in here until it is absolutely safe. We'll be back in here when the NBA opens. We'll be back in here when all the governor's mansions open for tours again. We'll be back in here when the White House opens again for visitation. Until then, until all of their stuff, and you know who there is, until their stuff opens up, none of our stuff will be opening up. Let the church say amen.
And Pastor Sharp joins us right now, Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church out of Chicago. Pastor, you heard what Donald Trump said today. I mean, just no regard for people. Churches are incubators. We ran a story the other day, a church in Georgia opened up. Yes. Now they're shutting back down because coronavirus spread all throughout the congregation.
It's going to happen in every church and every mosque and every synagogue. It is just completely unwise. I mean, we're the leading country of COVID-19 cases in the world. I'm in Illinois. Our church is in Chicago. We're the third most. We're the third leading state with the most cases in America. So I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we being presumptuous? And just because the church is, just because the building rather is closed doesn't mean that the church is closed. We can have church virtually. It's time for all of us to reimagine, to pivot, to most of his ministry didn't happen inside of a building. So we need to be outside the church anyway, helping our community, helping our people. So I just let it be known at Fellowship Chicago, I don't care what anybody else does in this nation. We will not be in church on Sunday.
Guys, let me know if you can see my iPhone, please. I want to pull this story up, Pastor. It says here, sorrowful Black clergy members in churches reeling from COVID-19 losses. At least 33 church leaders have died, according to an ABC News analysis. 33 Black pastors are dead due to coronavirus.
Wow. Well, I've led families across the grass of cemeteries, and I've done it more than one time this year. And when I tell you, until you understand that feeling, then nobody will understand the passion that I had in that video last Sunday. And now that I see what President Trump has done today, is almost prophetic, and it's eerily prophetic for me that I said that, because I had no idea that he was going to pander to a portion of his base the way that he's done today. Churches have to have faith and wisdom. And it really makes me sad, man. It breaks my heart, Doc, that you have so many pastors that have faith but are lacking wisdom in this season. You got to have both.
Well, and not only that, look, I totally get how churches are being hurt. I get their buildings. I get they have bills, they have staff, their tithes and offerings. But when you have 33 bishops, pastors, and reverends die, when you had that was one pastor back in March had a funeral, 300 people were there, and a number of them got infected. I mean, this thing is real. This thing is impacting us in a unique way. And this is where I say, man, ignore what this man is saying, because it's killing us. So if they want to go congregate, hey, knock themselves out. They can go. Ralph Reed, Franklin Graham, all of them can all go get together. But I've been working with Black pastors trying to help them on how to live stream, how to get the word out. But people can still give online. You can still have church. And matter of fact, to be real honest, Pastor, this actually goes back to old school church, where you had Bible study in homes in very small groups, and many churches were born out of Bible studies in home. And so people can use Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Hangout and other Skype and other forms to still be able to have worship, have Bible study, have fellowship.
Absolutely. We've had virtual Bible study. I did a virtual memorial service. We've had men's ministry, women's ministry, youth ministry, marriage ministry, all on Zoom calls and on Skypes and other things. So it's just no excuse for it. But we have to make sure that we don't put profit above people and worry about finances and put them over our flock. The people will support us as long as we need moral leadership. That's at the core of this.
There you go.
Martin. We need moral leadership. And that means we have to do what's good for the greatest number of people. And coming back to church on Sunday, rushing to do that, it's not wise. Just because the flood in Noah's time lasted 40 days, the Bible says that the waters didn't subside until 150 days. They had to stay on that ark longer than necessary because it wasn't safe yet. We got to stay in the ark, stay safe, because I promise you, the world, some of our irresponsible leaders in high places, wickedness in high places, they do not care about our black bodies. They do not care about our black people or our black communities. And so we have to be leaders in the African-American community that look out for our people. It is not the job of the shepherd to just feed the sheep. We have to fight the wolves. That's a direct quote from my big brother, Dr. Freddie Haynes. And we have to. This right here, choosing to stay home, requires more faith than us opening back up our churches, having church on Sunday. It's going to take time.
Pastor Reginald Sharp, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for that.
All right, then. Another alpha man. Always good to see the 06 brothers on the show. Greg Carr. Sorry, Joseph Williams. Greg, Amisha, Joseph.
Made the wrong choice.
I'm just saying. I'm going to go Joseph first. I go ahead and go Joseph first because we feel sorry for you. Joseph, this is where I don't care. I'm sorry. I keep saying, black people, don't listen to this man. Don't listen to Donald Trump.
How do you, it's hard to reconcile all of this. Especially when you have somebody like Parasonar coming on the show claiming a record that does not exist. And again, there's a through line through all of this today. And the one that connects this one to the previous segment is the fact that African-American bodies are viewed as disposable. This church announcement was not meant for black people. Again, I think it was meant for white people, but still, you have African-American congregations and African-American ministers who know what's up. They know that this virus is disconcerting and is wiping out communities. And there really is no excuse for Trump to do this other than pandering, because he knows the fall is coming up. He wants to look strong, and he wants to look like he's standing up for religion when he's doing exactly the opposite. I wrote a story back when he was running for president that this man could probably not name a Bible verse on a bet. He got it wrong several times when he was trying to speak to evangelical conservatives. They did not care because he was giving them what they wanted, and that was a president who supports their particular views on many things, including race.
Amisha.
This is an election year, and Trump is speaking to the religious right directly. And when he goes out and he makes these statements about church reopening, it's not because he gives $2 hot about churches or religion at all. It's because he's trying to rally that base around a shared ideology about Christianity. Like the pastor said, I'm a proud Chicagoan. I've actually been to that church many times. Right now, we are really in need when it comes to enforcing social distancing. We don't have a vaccine. What we know about coronavirus continues to develop every day. There is still a great fear that it may, in fact, get stronger. It may, in fact, morph into something that's a lot more dangerous. We don't know. We know that there is more information coming out daily about how it's affecting children. And again, these are things that we are dealing with as new details and more news emerges. It is not time to open up churches, many of which are massive spaces, because we're long gone from the days of small storefront churches. We're talking about big churches. We can't have people going into these spaces and putting their lives at risk. We just can't. And yes, to your point earlier, Roland, there are so many ways that people are expressing their Christian faith or their other faiths via these online portals, via social media and Zoom and all these other, conference things. It is not that you have to be in the building to have church. You can do it right from your home.
Greg, he is trying to appease his white conservative evangelicals, pure and simple.
Absolutely. And in fact, I don't even know if he's that sophisticated. Certainly his advisors are. First of all, it was good to see a young brother in his early 30s like Pastor Sharp there. And I'm glad you've been to that church, Amisha. One day, I'm not one to go to church a lot, but next time those doors open and I'm in Chicago, I may go by there. Good Morehouse brother, as you say, and an alpha, of course. But it's good to see a man or woman, a person, be able to speak to black people and stand in the gap between black people and this reckless food. So yes, his political advisors want the evangelicals. You covered on this show how they were spreading around, walking around money earlier in the year, trying to buy black evangelicals. You've seen the handful of black pastors who he's trooped out through this kind of thing. But at this point, something else, and I mentioned it earlier, really, we can see this with Donald Trump. We saw Kellyanne Conway. I'm glad she's still alive as she's sitting there in the seat that Dr. Burks got off because, you got to have a sycophant there. But this is really going to the point I want to make. As Donald Trump unravels, it's clear he's not mentally well. The flights of fancy that he launches into, the idea that he is a monarch, a king, and can somehow give an edict and the churches will open, that somehow if governors defy him, he can somehow override them. These things are the pronouncements of an unwell man. And you see him now turning to his sons. You see him now turning, here's Kellyanne again. He's shrinking. His world is collapsing in on itself, and his delusions are on public display every time he steps in front of a microphone. Those campaign managers now have to figure out how to keep enough of him together to get him to November, as the Mitch McConnells and them decided how they can kneecap the federal post office or somehow suppress the vote enough to perhaps steal another term and finish their real job, which is to raid the federal treasury and stack the judiciary. So there are a lot of moving parts here, but there's no guarantee that Donald Trump makes it out of this. I don't mean physically. I don't mean in terms of his physical health. I mean that this man is unraveling in front of our eyes. Every day it just gets worse. So, Roland, I'm not sure what's going to happen even by this time tomorrow when you go on the air in terms of something crazy he's going to say.
Bottom line is this here, folks. Don't listen to that man. Churches, y'all need to stay at the crib. Simple as that. I don't care. Pastor is right in terms of how you can use technology. Monday, our alpha brother, Roger B. Brown, pioneering sports journalist in Dallas-Fort Worth, passed away. And on tomorrow, we're going to hold his Omega service at 10:06 a.m. Eastern. And then we're going to have his memorial service at 11 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be live streaming it on our platforms. He was my dear friend. And again, same thing. It would be great for us to be able to go back to Mississippi to have his funeral. But simply that is unsafe for us to do so. It makes no sense whatsoever, so do not listen to anything that Trump says. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Issues. Now you got Trump doubling down on defending himself against criticism from medical experts that his announced use of a malaria drug against the coronavirus could spark widespread misuse and it has potentially fatal side effects. Here's the whiner in chief.
The FDA has said hydroxychloroquine should not be used outside of a hospital setting or...
No, that's not what I was told. No, there was a false study done where they gave it to very sick people, extremely sick people, people that were ready to die. It was given by obviously not friends of the administration. And the study came out, the people were ready to die. Everybody was old, had bad problems with hearts, diabetes, and everything else you can imagine. So they gave it. So immediately when it came out, they gave a lot of false information. Just so you understand, great studies came out of Italy on hydroxy. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Great studies came out, and the combination of the three. But we had some great studies come out. Italy, France, Spain, ourselves, many doctors. But I think it's worth it as a line of defense, and I'll stay on it for a little while longer. I'm just very curious myself, but it seems to be very safe. But that study was a phony study put out by the VA.
And here we go. Trump with his usual nonsense. There's all kind of other stuff that's going on when it comes to the issue of the coronavirus. They're spreading crazy information. They're spreading misinformation as well, folks. It makes no sense what is going on. You also have doctors and scientists in the United States and Europe concerned about a mysterious new pediatric illness that appears linked to COVID-19. Instead of attacking the lungs like the adult does, like the disease does in adults, this syndrome, while seemingly very rare, can trigger serious and even deadly cardiac complications in children. Plus, we have false negatives involving coronavirus as well. The Abbott test they've been touting, FDA is warning about that as well. Lots of things to talk about. Let's bring up, of course, sister, you know her so well. We've had her on the show many times. She's been giving great information on this, and there's Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. She's Associate Professor, Anesthesiology and Critical Care Medicine, University of Virginia, and Medical Director at Good Stock. Dr. Hilton, glad to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me back. I wish there was nothing to talk about, but here we are.
All right, so we've got craziness from the winery-in-chief touting this drug, and what's interesting is his own doctor put this statement out, but nowhere in there did the doctor actually say he prescribed the drug. And, you know, they're dancing around this, and so what do you just make of the silliness coming from Donald Trump about this drug?
I don't believe him at all, for one. It is one of those things that I think he says things on the spur, and it's unfortunate that we cannot believe and trust the words of our president that's in charge of keeping us all safe and keeping our nation intact. But I think he truly made that up on the spot, which is why he couldn't say the word hydroxychloroquine and tried to play it off, which is why he also couldn't say the word doctors. Also tried to play that off. I think we have a problem. But that being said, to either lie about taking it or to pressure a doctor into prescribing it for you when there's known risk and side effects of this drug, when there's no clear indication for you to take that drug, that is insanity in either direction.
And again, you have this constant defense of it, even though the test results have shown it is not doing anything for these people who are suffering from coronavirus. It's like this idiot can't get it through his head that he's wrong.
Right. And the study actually came out of the University of Virginia, where I work, looking at VA patients. And what we saw is that it actually had worse outcomes, that those patients who were on hydroxychloroquine alone had higher mortality rates. That means they died. And the thing is, he brought up the fact that these patients were already really sick, that they were really old, they had many comorbidities. But that's the type of patients that we actually have to put you on medicines when you have COVID-19, because you are dying and we're trying to figure out a medicine that could help you not to die. So the fact that this medicine caused more people to die while on it is a bad indication for its utility in medicine. And so even in his own words, he basically explained why we are not using hydroxychloroquine at the University of Virginia.
So again, the FDA has warned that the only people who should be prescribing this drug is if people are in hospitals. So people who are at home should not be taking this drug just for the hell of it.
Yeah. I mean, this drug is excellent for what it's useful for. Those with lupus, those with other types of conditions that have been prescribed this medication and monitored, their lab work monitored, their EKGs monitored, fantastic. If you have malaria, fantastic. But if you're just taking this as a preventative, as he's suggesting that he is doing, that's not what you do. If anything in medicine, as medical providers, we try to get you off of medicines as quickly as possible, because we know that every medicine has a potential for a side effect. Yes. And this medicine in particular has a decent amount of cardiac arrhythmias that are associated with it. And so we try to limit its use as much as possible, but there are certain conditions where people need this medicine, and we need to use that medicine for those individuals and not for someone who's making up things at the spur of the moment on a press conference.
So for all the folks who are sitting here watching, who are paying attention, I keep saying this. If there's any advice that's coming out of the mouth of Donald Trump, completely ignore it. Even Neil Cavuto on Fox Business was saying the exact same thing.
Ignore it and or do the direct opposite is what I found to be most accurate, because, for instance, he's not wearing a mask, of which, yes, we know that the mask does not 100% prevent any transmission, but he is around how many people now that are testing positive for COVID-19? And for him to continue to be reckless in his practice is absolutely, I think, the pure definition of insanity. At a certain point, you have to realize that we are all mortal, and that he's putting himself and therefore our nation at risk.
All right, I want to bring in my panel here. A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee, Lauren Victoria Burke, NNPA, Dr. Jason Nichols, Department of African American Studies, University of Maryland. Jason, I'm going to start with you, and folks, keep Ebony there, Dr. Hilton there. Jason, what I see what's going on here is, and again, I see complete dereliction of duty coming from this White House. You have Trump in these news conferences making people take off their masks to ask questions. You have cabinet meetings where they're not sitting spacing away from one another. You've got Mike Pence who says he's not on this drug, but he's been self-quarantining because one of his staffers actually tested positive coronavirus. I would dare say everything that should be done to take precautions against this, follow nothing this administration is doing because they're not practicing what the doctors are actually preaching, Jason.
I mean, I think you've pretty much said it all. The fact that, he's taking this drug as some sort of prophylactic against, the virus, and there's no evidence of it. We haven't seen it in any kind of clinical trials. I was just reading a new study out of China that says that none of that works. We saw Stephen Miller got it. His wife got it. It's running through the White House. He's not wearing masks. He's being reckless. He's setting a terrible example. And that's not what leadership is. What leadership is first setting the example yourself in order to make this country safer, in this case, flatten the curve. And he's really, setting a terrible example for, everyday Americans. And now we have children, dying. We had a child in Baltimore who just passed away from, COVID-related illness. So this is a really terrible situation when you have someone who is not responsible and derelict in their duty.
Lauren, here's what I think is happening. And Dr. Hilton, I would love for you to weigh in on this as well. 94,000 people are dead. Okay. They've said, it's going to happen by June 1st. At the rate we're going, at the end, look, I said this last week, it might happen by Friday. They refuse to acknowledge what's going on. Now we're hearing about a woman fired in Florida. They're trying to fudge numbers. We saw what happened in Georgia. I mean, you have, and we already know what the administration has tried to do by questioning the CDC numbers. They want to be able to suppress these numbers because it's bad news for them, Lauren.
Exactly. He's trying to turn the page, and he can't turn the page. I mean, this is a president, as we know, who thinks everything is about PR. He doesn't want to have this branded to him, which it's completely branded to him. And it's completely branded to him because he didn't read his intelligence reports in December and January and February. There's no getting around it. We're going to hit 100,000 in probably less than a week. He is trying to turn this into another conversation and what the economy looks like after this is over, but it's not over because the stats are still coming in. He can't deny that. And, there's nothing like 100,000 people dying to stop all the PR and all the nonsense. And he can't spin his way out of it. He won't spin his way out of it. There's nothing else really to say. The fact that he won't wear a mask is really related to his own vanity and his own PR, obsession. He doesn't want to be photographed in a mask. He doesn't want to be seen in a mask. He knows that a photo of him in a mask is the actual epitome of this thing reaching right into the White House, which it already has done. And that's why he's not wearing one. So, he's childlike. We know he's childlike. I think Joe Biden is going to get elected as a result of this and everything else that's about to happen with regard to the economy, which is all going to happen on his watch. He can't blame anybody else, can't blame Barack Obama or anybody else. And basically, he's trapped, and he knows it.
Folks, today on Capitol Hill, there was testimony. Rick Bright testified regarding the folks not being prepared for this coronavirus and national testing. We're going to play some of that in just a second. Right now, though, I want to be joined by Dr. Georges Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association. Dr. Benjamin, real quick here, bottom line is this here.
I'm good. I got time for you.
These people are nuts, okay? General Russell Honore said, You cannot have a 50-state strategy. You've got to have a national testing strategy. Trump White House don't give it. They do not want any part of this. Governors, it's all on you.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You got to have a national strategy. You got to actually have a plan, and you got to stop winging it. And these folks are just winging it each and every day, and that's the problem. And it's gonna cost lives.
The thing is, what I don't understand is how I just would operate real quick. That is, a national strategy means, all right, I need to be able to look at the map and go, more tests goes over here, more over here. Don't need as much over here. Let's shift them over here. If you don't do that, you don't know what the hell is going on. You might have a whole bunch of tests sitting in a state. They don't even need them.
Absolutely. And in fact, we already know that has happened. We've had states that said we can't find any tests, and we have other states that say we got lots of them. So it's already happened.
When you looked at the testimony today, what did you make of it? He did not hold back at all as he laid out the problems. I mean, they trust me, the Republicans were not happy that Rick Bright, this whistleblower, went before the House committee.
Well, he's a credible guy. You know, he's worked hard, he's smart. And, I think he's just laying out the problems that we've had. We have a dysfunctional system and a dysfunctional leadership process. And he just laid it out for him. And I hope people just don't blow it off and think that he's just a disgruntled employee. Even if you're mad, there's credibility in what you have to say. And we're seeing the results of that each and every day. So despite what people think about his testimony, he says what he thinks. And I bet when they pull back the onion skin, we're going to find about all that is true.
One of the things that also I think is critically important, still, people who are impacted. Michael Harriet with the Root had this amazing story today about how these black women in this place in town in West Virginia were getting no assistance, and they pretty much figured it out on their own. They are not even medical experts, but where they showed how all these black people in this one town were how they were impacted, got coronavirus at a church, basically learned how to do tracing on their own, and they saved folks in their community. And that's what we're dealing. I mean, people should not have to be resorting to that.
No. I mean, the understanding is out there. Look, we've been doing contact tracing since the early 19th century. So we understand this. There's no reason for people to have to reinvent the wheel and learn it on their own. And we need to get more of them. And look, if you want to get people back to work, we know that we need at least 100,000 contact tracers. So those are good jobs. So I don't know what they're doing.
It is confusing to all of us what they're doing. And so, we're going to stay on top of this, keep pushing, keep prodding. Please share, what should black organizations, what should black churches, what should we be doing since we're being left out here on our own by this clueless administration?
Well, I think the first thing you ought to do is band together and talk about what you can do to make sure you're all safe. I think you ought to be following the guidance that we already have, which is covering up your nose and mouth when you cough and sneeze, washing your hands, wearing a mask when you're out, but safely, because we know about this issue of masking while black. And as we begin to move back into work, do it very, very carefully, very, very, very carefully. And that means that when you go back to work or school, we need to practice physical distancing from one another. We need to make sure that we protect one another and be respectful of one another, whether we're in the grocery store or we're on the bus, because too many of us are public facing in our jobs. And we've already seen, like everything else, this disease kills more people of color at a faster rate than it does with everybody else.
Indeed, Dr. Benjamin, we appreciate it. We're going to keep pushing this. And at the end of the day, we got to keep focusing on us, because if we don't focus on us, clearly nobody else will.
No, absolutely. And I know the NAACP is looking at this very carefully. And I would just encourage people, you can go to our website, the American Public Health Association, at apha.org. We have some information, but the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is still the nation's prevention agency. We can trust them, and they have some very important guidance on their website that tells us what to do. I would encourage people to go there and use it.
Dr. Georges Benjamin, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Roland, good to see you again.
All right, folks, here's some of the testimony today from Rick Bright.
That's a very difficult question to answer. I know that there are companies and academic labs working very hard. Normally it takes up to 10 years to make a vaccine. We've done it faster in emergency situations, but from when we had starting material in the freezer for Ebola. But for a novel virus, it's actually haven't been done yet that quickly. So a lot of optimism is swirling around a 12 to 18 month time frame. If everything goes perfectly, we've never seen everything go perfectly. My concern is if we rush too quickly and consider cutting out critical steps, we may not have a full assessment of the safety of that vaccine. So it's still going to take some time. I still think 12 to 18 months is an aggressive schedule, and I think it's going to take longer than that to do so.
12 to 18 months from now, or 12 to 18 months from when this all started, the beginning of the year?
It would be 12 to 18 months from when the particular manufacturers first received the material or information that they needed to start developing that vaccine. It's critical to note when we say 12 to 18 months, that doesn't mean for an FDA-approved vaccine. That means to have sufficient data and information on the safety and immunogenicity, if not efficacy, to be able to use on an emergency basis. And that is the consideration that we have in mind when we talk about an accelerated timeline.
Thank you.
Lord, Erica, the Republicans are not happy. Republicans are not happy. He testified.
I'm so glad that he did, because this is another person that we see that was assigned to that was inside of a federal agency, that because he did not do the things and say what Trump felt like he needed to say, that he was in effect pushed out. And just so that the viewing audience knows, as he talks about, the first number that he talked about was 10 years, the 12 to 18 month period. That's not even FDA approved for the vaccine. That just as recently as today, Dr. Joseph Fair, who works for NBC as a contributor, was hospitalized with COVID. And he says that he believes the way that he contracted COVID, he was on a plane. He said that there was not real social distancing, that he traveled to New Orleans very recently, and that the plane was packed, that the guidance about the middle aisle being taken out, that was not followed, and that he believes that he contracted COVID through his eyes. His eyes weren't protected. Again, people need to understand that this is a novel virus, and that as Dr. Bright shared in his testimony, and other folks that you've had on this platform and in writings have talked about, it is going to take real significant time. We're talking about experts who have battled Ebola in foreign countries, who do have expertise in this area. And so though Republicans don't like it, it is good for the audience. It is good for the body politic to understand this, because the negligence of this particular regime has now led to 85,000 deaths, which makes the USA leading in deaths from the coronavirus today.
Reese.
Yeah, I mean, listening to Dr. Bright's testimony was alarming. I mean, he really basically kind of said that we're screwed, and that Donald Trump and his administration has completely abdicated their responsibility to have a competent response. And what they're banking on, and I'm editorializing here, this isn't what Dr. Bright said, but what they're banking on is that people are going to be more concerned about getting to the bars. We saw the bar in Houston that was packed. I've seen it at least on social media and other places, than they are about the very, very very quickly rising death toll. I think people still haven't it hasn't set into them that this virus is not any less dangerous than it was when this whole stay-at-home push started. It's not any less dangerous. It's not any less infectious. It's not any less deadly. We've made no advancements whatsoever in the treatment. We're not any closer to the vaccine. And I even saw a survey saying 25% or more people won't even take a vaccine once it's available. This is something that's going to fundamentally shift our way of life. And people are still going about it like business as normal. And that's where the Republicans are unfortunately winning the messaging war on it, because people would rather believe a fairy tale than believe that they're going to have to radically adjust the way that they go about their daily life.
Greg.
Roland, this is a critical point you're raising now. The country, of course, is aware of Dr. Bright's testimony today. The Republicans ran out of questioners. Every Republican questioner sounded like the complete idiot they are, defending themselves by attacking everybody from Barack Obama to imaginary creatures or whatever else they could come up with. So it's a critical point for that point, of course. And as we heard Erica walk through it, and then Reese, this the importance of dealing with the fact that the federal political apparatus simply doesn't exist. In this venue, as we tie that to the story that you evoked, our brother Mike Harriet over at The Root, when he started talking about Ramelia Hodges and the other three sisters who kind of came together in West Virginia to stand in the face of this, you've now grasped something that our people need to pay strict attention to, this question of contact tracing. And so when these sisters in West Virginia, Hodges, Danielle Walker, who's a delegate in the House of Delegates of West Virginia, Tiffany Samuels and Terry Berkeley got together, they forced the hand of Joe Manchin, the senator in West Virginia, of course, who then offers resources to get people tested. But then West Virginia stopped gathering data by race, because now it's going to be an embarrassment. They had already shut down one of the only hospitals in the area that would serve Black people in that area of the state. But I'm raising this for this very specific reason. We're here in the D.C. area. I'm on something called the Black Coalition Against COVID. A bunch of D.C. folks are getting together trying to help our people understand that contact tracing is coming. You got to let people know who you've been in contact with. Those people they're not going to share the information with other people. Our people have right reason to be paranoid about the government, ask you questions about where you've been. But at this juncture, the federal government is broken. The state governments are battling back. We saw what happened in Wisconsin today, for example, where the Supreme Court overruled the governor in another show of naked partisanship, including that judge who lost his election last month. And they say, open up the state. That's going to put you at risk, Black people. So I was on a call yesterday with educators from around the country, Miami, Milwaukee, other places, Baltimore, and they were saying that our people are facing sickness and death, as we know, in an unprecedented manner. But this contact tracing issue is real. And so when you see what happened in West Virginia, even as Dr. Bright is saying this thing is going to get worse, and Donald Trump continues to turn his head to try to have campaign rallies like at this factory today when he's over there playing around with testing equipment, our people need to understand that it doesn't take money to ask questions. So the churches, the Masonic organizations, as you always say, the fraternities and sororities, it's time for us now to get real about identifying who is sick, getting them resources, helping sequester them if we can, because until we put pressure on people to get more resources, we are going to be the ones that die. And contact tracing, this issue you're raising today, contact tracing is something we should be talking about every day.
Every single night. We've got some of the top Black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear Black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Cardle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Springs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, Executive Director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.